The tall glass building stood quiet in the evening light. Most workers had gone home hours ago. Their cars were no longer in the parking lot. Only a few lights were still on in the windows. This was the time when Maria Santos came to work. Maria was 28 years old. She had come to America from Mexico 3 years ago. She did not speak much English, but she worked hard. Every night at 9 o'clock she came to clean the Henderson Corporate Tower. The building had 30 floors. Maria cleaned 10 floors each night. It was a big job for one person. She carried her cleaning cart from room to room. The cart had everything she needed. There were bottles of cleaning spray, paper towels, and trash bags. The wheels on the cart made a soft sound as she moved through the empty hallways. Maria liked the quiet. During the day, the building was full of people talking and phones ringing. At night, it was peaceful. David Chun was the facilities director of the building. He was 35 years old and had worked there for 8 years. His job was to make sure everything in the building worked well. He fixed problems with the heating, the elevators, and the lights. He also hired people like Maria to keep the building clean. David often stayed late at work. He had an office on the 15th floor. When other people went home, he could get more work done. There were always reports to write and problems to solve. Sometimes he worked until midnight. This is how he first met Maria. On a Monday night in October, David was walking to the elevator. He saw Maria cleaning the windows in the lobby. She worked very carefully. She cleaned each window until it was perfect. David was impressed by how well she did her job. He said hello to her in English. Maria looked up and smiled. She said hello back, but her voice was very quiet. David noticed that Maria seemed nervous. She did not look at him when she talked. She kept her head down and cleaned faster. David thought maybe she was shy because she did not speak much English. Many people felt nervous when they could not speak the language well. Over the next few weeks, David saw Maria many times. She was always working hard. She never took long breaks. She never talked on her phone during work time. David respected workers who took their jobs seriously. He decided to learn a little Spanish so he could talk to her better. One evening, David tried to say good evening in Spanish. He said buenas noches to Maria. She looked surprised and smiled. This was the first time David saw her really smile. She said buenas noches back to him. After that, they always greeted each other in Spanish. David began to notice other things about Maria. She always wore long sleeves, even when it was warm in the building. She never ate lunch or dinner at work. Other cleaning staff usually brought food or bought something from the vending machines. Maria never did this. She only drank water. Maria was also very careful about her appearance. Her hair was always pulled back neatly. Her uniform was always clean and pressed. She wore makeup, but David sometimes thought she used it to cover something. He was not sure what. One night in November, the weather was getting cold. David was leaving his office when he saw Maria cleaning the conference room. She was reaching up to clean the top of a tall window. When she stretched her arm up, her sleeve moved down. David saw dark marks on her arm. They looked like bruises. The marks were purple and black. They were shaped like fingers. David had seen marks like this before. His sister had been in a bad relationship years ago. She had bruises like this on her arms too. David felt worried about Maria. When Maria saw David looking, she quickly pulled her sleeve down. She turned away from him and continued cleaning. But David could see that her hands were shaking. She was trying to clean the window, but she was moving too fast and making mistakes. David did not know what to say. He wanted to help, but he did not want to scare Maria. He said, "Good night," in Spanish and left. But he could not stop thinking about what he had seen. The next day, David could not focus on his work. He kept thinking about the marks on Maria's arm. He wondered if someone was hurting her. He wondered if she was safe at home. He had heard that some women were afraid to ask for help when someone hurt them. David decided to pay more attention to Maria. He wanted to know if she was in trouble. He started staying late more often. He wanted to see how she acted when she thought no one was watching. The following week, David saw Maria every night. He noticed that she always looked around carefully before she started working. She seemed afraid that someone might be watching her. She checked her phone many times during the night. When it rang, she answered it quickly. She always spoke in Spanish, so David could not understand what she was saying. One night, David heard Maria talking on the phone in the hallway. Her voice sounded scared. Even though David did not understand Spanish well, he could tell that someone was angry with her. And the person on the phone was yelling. David could hear the voice through Maria's phone. After the phone call, Maria looked very upset. She sat down on a chair and put her head in her hands. David thought she might be crying. He wanted to go to her and ask if she was okay, but he was afraid that might make things worse for her. David remembered what he had learned about helping people who were being hurt. He knew that sometimes asking directly could put them in more danger. The person hurting them might get angry if they found out someone was asking questions. That night, David went home and could not sleep. He kept thinking about Maria. He wondered what kind of life she had when she was not at work. He wondered if she had family or friends who could help her. He wondered if she knew that there were people who could help women who were being hurt. David decided he had to do something. He could not pretend that he had not seen the marks on Maria's arm. He could not ignore the fear in her voice when she talked on the phone. But he had to be very careful about how he helped her. The next morning, David called his wife Sarah. Sarah. She helped families who had problems. David told her about Maria and the marks he had seen. Sarah told him that he was right to be worried. She said that Maria might be in danger. Sarah gave David some advice about how to help Maria. She said he should not ask her directly about the marks. Instead, he should let Maria know that he cared about her and wanted to help. He should make her feel safe before he asked any questions. David decided to start small. He would show Maria that he was a friend. He would let her know that she could trust him. Then maybe she would tell him if she needed help. That evening, David waited for Maria to arrive at work. He had a plan. He was going to help her, but he had to be very careful. Maria's safety was the most important thing. David started watching Maria more carefully. He did not want to make her feel uncomfortable, but he needed to know if she was really in trouble. He changed his work schedule so he could be in the building when she was working. Instead of going home at 6 o'clock, he stayed until 10 or 11 at night, every evening. David found reasons to walk through the floors where Maria was cleaning. He pretended to check the air conditioning or look at the elevator. Really, he was watching too. See how Maria acted when she thought no one was looking? What David saw made him more worried. Maria jumped when she heard sudden noises. If someone came around a corner quickly, she would step back and look scared. When the elevator doors opened, she always looked nervous until she saw who was inside. David also noticed that Maria never seemed happy. Other cleaning staff would sometimes laugh or sing while they worked. Maria never did this. She always looked serious and worried. Her face was always tense, like she was waiting for something bad to happen. On Tuesday night, David was walking down the hallway when he heard Maria's phone ring. She answered it quickly, like she was afraid to let it ring too long. David stopped and listened. He stayed far enough away so Maria could not see him, but close enough to hear her voice. Maria was speaking Spanish, but David could tell she was upset. Her voice was shaky and quiet. She kept saying, "I'm sorry," in Spanish. David knew enough Spanish to understand that. She said "Lo siento" many times. Someone was making her apologize for something. The person on the phone was talking very loudly. David could hear the angry voice coming through the phone. Even though he could not understand the words, he could tell the person was yelling at Maria. The voice sounded like a man. After a few minutes, Maria hung up the phone. She stood there for a long time, not moving. David could see her shoulders shaking. He thought she was crying. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve and then went back to work. David felt angry. Someone was making Maria scared and sad. He wanted to know who it was. He wanted to tell that person to stop hurting her. But he knew he had to be careful. If he did the wrong thing, Maria might get hurt worse. The next night, David brought his dinner to work. He ate in the break room on the floor where Maria was cleaning. He hoped she would come in and maybe they could talk. He wanted her to know that he was friendly and that she could trust him. Maria did come into the break room. She needed to empty the trash can and clean the tables. When she saw David eating, she looked surprised. She said buenas noches and started to leave. David said wait in Spanish. He had learned the word espera. Maria stopped and looked at him. David smiled and pointed to the chair across from him. He said sit in Spanish. He had learned that word too. Maria looked nervous, but she sat down. David offered her some of his sandwich. She shook her head and said no, thank you in English. David was happy to hear her speak English. Her accent was thick, but her words were clear. David tried to make conversation. He asked Maria if she liked working at night. She said yes, it was quiet. He asked if she lived far from the building. She said no, it was close. Her answers were short, but she was talking to him. Then David asked if she had family in the area. Maria's face changed. She looked scared again. She said she had to go back to work. She stood up quickly and left the break room. David felt bad. He had asked the wrong question. Something about family made Maria scared. Maybe her family was the problem. Maybe someone in her family was hurting her. Over the next few days, David tried to learn more about Maria's life. He looked at her employee records. He saw that she had put down an emergency contact. The name was Carlos Rivera. The relationship was listed as boyfriend. David wrote down the phone number. David also noticed that Maria had been absent from work 3 times in the past month. Each time she had called in sick. David wondered if she was really sick, or if someone had hurt her and she could not come to work. On Friday night, David was working late again. He heard Maria talking on the phone in the supply closet. She was speaking very quietly, but David could hear that she was upset. She kept saying please in Spanish. She said por favor over and over. David moved closer to the closet. He knew it was wrong to listen, but he was worried about Maria. He heard her say a name. She said Carlos several times. David remembered that Carlos was the name of her boyfriend. Maria was begging Carlos for something. David could hear her crying. She was trying to talk quietly, but her voice was shaking. David heard her say, I will come home in Spanish. She said voy a casa. After Maria hung up, she stayed in the closet for a long time. David could hear her crying. He wanted to knock on the door and ask if she was okay, but he was afraid that would make things worse. When Maria finally came out of the closet, her eyes were red from crying. She tried to continue working, but David could see that she was very upset. Her hands were shaking so much that she could not hold the cleaning supplies steady. David decided he had to do something. He could not watch Maria suffer anymore. He walked over to where she was working. He said her name softly. Maria, she looked up at him. Her eyes were full of tears. David said, Are you okay? In Spanish. He had learned the phrase ¿Estás bien? Maria looked at him for a long time. David could see that she wanted to say something, but she was afraid. Finally, she shook her head. She said no, very quietly. David felt his heart break. Maria was telling him that she was not okay. She was asking for help without saying the words. David said, I want to help you in Spanish. He had practiced this phrase, Quiero ayudarte? Maria started crying harder. She said, You cannot help me in English. Her voice was so sad that David felt tears in his own eyes. David said, Yes, I can help you. He said it in English so she would understand clearly. There are people who can help you. You do not have to be afraid. Maria looked around to make sure no one else was listening. She said, He will hurt me if I tell anyone. She said it very quietly. David knew that he was Carlos. Maria was afraid that her boyfriend would hurt her if she told anyone about what he was doing to her. David said, He will not know. We can keep it secret. Maria wiped her eyes with her sleeve. She said, He watches me. He knows everything I do. She looked at her phone. He calls me all the time. He wants to know where I am. David understood. Carlos was controlling Maria. He was making sure she could not get help from anyone. He was making her afraid to talk to people. David said, I will protect you. I will help you be safe. He said it in simple English so Maria would understand. Maria looked at David for a long time. She could see that he really wanted to help her. She could see that he was a good person. But she was still afraid. She said, "I have to go home now. He is waiting for me." She packed up her cleaning supplies quickly. She looked at her phone again. There were 3 missed calls from Carlos. David watched Maria leave the building. He felt frustrated and sad. He knew that Maria was going home. To someone who was hurting her. He knew that she was afraid. But he did not know how to help her. David went home that night and talked to his wife Sarah again. He told her about his conversation with Maria. Sarah said that David had done the right thing. He had let Maria know that he cared about her and wanted to help. That was the first step. Sarah told David that it often took time for people to accept help. Maria was scared, but she was starting to trust David. Sarah said that David should keep showing Maria that he was a friend. Eventually, Maria might be ready to let him help her. David decided to continue watching over Maria. He would show her that someone cared about her. He would wait for her to be ready to accept help. He would not give up on her. David knew he had to be very careful about how he helped Maria. His wife Sarah had taught him that people who were being hurt often could not accept help right away. They were too scared. David had to show Maria that he was safe and that he cared about her. David decided to start with small acts of kindness. He did not want to ask Maria any more questions about her boyfriend. He did not want to make her more afraid. Instead, he wanted to show her that there were good people in the world who wanted to help her. On Monday night, David bought 2 cups of coffee from the machine in the lobby. He drank one and left the other one on Maria's cleaning cart. He put a small note with it. The note said, "For Maria, you work very hard." "Thank you," he signed it, David. When Maria found the coffee, she looked around to see who had left it. She saw David at the end of the hallway. She held up the cup and smiled. She said, "Thank you," in English. David smiled back and waved. The next night, David left a chocolate bar on Maria's cart. The note said, "I hope you like chocolate. Have a good night." Maria kept the chocolate bar in her pocket. David never saw her eat it, but she kept it with her while she worked. David continued leaving small gifts for Maria. Sometimes it was a cup of coffee. Sometimes it was a candy bar or a package of cookies. He always left a friendly note. The notes were simple. They said things like, "You are doing a good job," or "I hope you have a nice day." Maria began to look forward to finding David's gifts. She would smile when she saw them. She started saying "thank you" to David when she saw him. She did not look as scared when he was around. After 2 weeks of leaving gifts, David decided to try something different. He had learned that Maria did not have much money. She wore the same clothes every day. She never bought food from the vending machines. David thought maybe she needed help with money. David bought a gift card to the grocery store near the building. It was for $25. He left it on Maria's cart with a note. The note said, "For groceries. Everyone needs good food." He signed it, "Your friend, David." Maria found the gift card and looked very surprised. She looked around for David. When she saw him, she walked over to him. She had tears in her eyes. She said, "This is too much. I cannot take this." David said, "Yes, you can. I want to help you." He said it in simple English so she would understand. Maria looked at the gift card in her hand. She said, "Why are you being so kind to me?" David said, "Because you are a good person. You work hard. You deserve kindness." Maria started crying. She said, "No one has been kind to me for a long time." David felt very sad when Maria said this. He knew that Carlos was not kind to her. He knew that Maria was lonely and scared. David said, "I will always be kind to you. You are my friend." Maria wiped her eyes. She said, "I do not have many friends." David said, "Now you have one. I am your friend." From that night on, Maria seemed a little happier. She would wave to David when she saw him. She would say, "Good evening," in English. She still looked worried most of the time, but she was not as scared of David. David continued leaving gifts for Maria. He left gift cards for food and clothes. He left little notes that said nice things about her. He wanted Maria to know that someone cared about her and thought she was important. One night, David was working late when he heard Maria crying. The sound was coming from the women's restroom. David stood outside the door and listened. Maria was sobbing. She was talking to someone on the phone in Spanish. David could hear Maria saying, "I'm sorry," over and over. She was saying, "Lo siento" many times. Someone was yelling at her through the phone. David could hear the angry voice even through the door. After the phone call ended, Maria stayed in the restroom for a long time. David waited in the hallway. He was worried about her. When she finally came out, her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She had tried to wash her face, but David could see that she was very upset. David said, "Maria, are you okay?" She looked at him and started crying again. She said, "I am in trouble." "I did something wrong," David said. "What did you do wrong?" Maria said, "I was late coming home from work last night. Carlos was angry. He said I was talking to other men." David felt angry. Carlos was mad at Maria just because she was late. He was accusing her of talking to other men when she was just working. David said, "You did not do anything wrong." "You were working," Maria said. "Carlos does not believe me. He thinks I am lying to him." She looked very scared. She said, "He is coming to pick me up tonight. He wants to make sure I am not talking to anyone." David realized that Carlos was going to come to the building. He was going to watch Maria while she worked. David said, "When is he coming?" Maria looked at her phone. She said, "He will be here in 1 hour. He will wait in the parking lot and watch me through the windows." She was shaking with fear. David made a decision. He said, "Maria, I want to help you, but I need you to trust me." "Do you trust me?" Maria looked at David for a long time. She could see that he really wanted to help her. She could see that he was a good person. Finally, she nodded. She said, "Yes, I trust you." David said, "Good. I want you to know that what Carlos is doing to you is wrong. He should not hit you. He should not control you. He should not make you afraid." Maria looked surprised. She said, "How do you know that he hits me?" David said, "I saw the marks on your arms." "I know what those marks look like." "Someone is hurting you." Maria started crying again. She said, "I did not think anyone would notice." David said, "I noticed because I care about you. I want to help you be safe." Maria said, "I want to leave Carlos, but I cannot. He said he will hurt me if I try to leave. He said he will find me anywhere I go." David said, "There are people who can help you. There are places you can go where you will be safe. Carlos cannot hurt you if you have help." Maria shook her head. She said, "You do not understand. Carlos is very dangerous. He has hurt other people before. He told me what he did to his last girlfriend when she tried to leave him." David felt scared for Maria. Carlos sounded like a very dangerous man. But David knew that Maria could not continue living this way. She needed help, and she needed it soon. David said, "Maria, I have a wife who helps people like you. Her name is Sarah. She knows how to help women who are being hurt by their boyfriends. She can help you be safe." Maria looked interested but still scared. She said, "What would she do?" David said, "First, she would help you make a plan. She would help you find a safe place to live. She would help you get away from Carlos without him knowing." Maria said, "I do not have any money. I do not have anywhere to go. All my things are at Carlos's house." David said, "Sarah can help you with all of that. There are programs that help women like you. They give you money and a place to live. They help you start a new life." Maria was quiet for a long time. She was thinking about what David had said. Finally she said, "I am scared. What if Carlos finds out that I talked to you?" David said, "He will not find out. We will be very careful." "But Maria, you cannot continue living like this. Carlos is going to hurt you worse if you stay with him." Maria knew that David was right. Carlos was getting more violent. Last week he had pushed her down the stairs. She had bruises on her back that David had not seen. She was afraid that Carlos might really hurt her badly one day. Maria said, "If I talk to your wife, will you promise that Carlos will not find out?" David said, "I promise. Sarah knows how to help people safely. She will not do anything that will put you in danger." Maria looked at her phone again. Carlos would be there soon. She said, "I have to work now. Carlos will be watching me. Can I talk to your wife tomorrow?" David said, "Yes, Sarah can meet you somewhere safe, maybe during the day when Carlos is at work." Maria nodded. She said, "I work at a restaurant during the day. I have a break at 3 o'clock. Could she meet me then?" David said, "Yes, I will ask her. Where is the restaurant?" Maria told David the name and address of the restaurant. It was a small Mexican restaurant about 10 minutes from the building. David said, "Sarah will meet you there tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Maria said, "Thank you, David. You are the first person who has tried to help me in a long time." David said, "You do not have to thank me. I want to help you because you are my friend." Maria went back to work. David could see Carlos's car pull into the parking lot. Carlos got out and stood where he could see the windows of the building. He was watching Maria work. David felt angry looking at Carlos. He was a big man with tattoos on his arms. He looked mean and dangerous. David could see why Maria was so afraid of him. David went home and told Sarah about his conversation with Maria. Sarah said she would meet Maria at the restaurant tomorrow. She would help Maria make a plan to leave Carlos safely. David hoped that Maria would be brave enough to meet with Sarah. He hoped that she would accept help. He knew that this might be Maria's only chance to get away from Carlos and start a new life. The next day, David could not focus on his work. He kept thinking about Maria and wondering if she would meet with Sarah. He knew that Maria was scared, but he hoped she would be brave enough to accept help. At 2:30 in the afternoon, David's phone rang. It was Sarah. She said, "I'm at the restaurant." "I'm waiting for Maria," David said. "Good, I hope she comes." At 3:15, Sarah called again. She said, "Maria is here. She's very scared, but she's talking to me. I think we can help her." David felt relieved. Maria had been brave enough to ask for help. That was the hardest part. Now Sarah could help her make a plan to get away from Carlos safely. Sarah talked to Maria for 2 hours. Maria told her everything about Carlos. She told Sarah how he hit her and threatened her. She told Sarah that he controlled all her money and would not let her have friends. She told Sarah that she was afraid to leave because Carlos said he would kill her if she tried. Sarah explained to Maria that there were laws to protect women like her. She explained that Carlos could not legally hurt her or threaten her. She told Maria about shelters where she could live safely. She told Maria about programs that would help her get a new job and a new life, but Maria was still scared. She said, "Carlos will find me. He knows everyone in this town. He has friends who will help him look for me." Sarah understood Maria's fear. She had helped many women who were afraid of their abusers. She said, "We can help you move to a different city. We can help you get a new identity if you need it." "Carlos will not be able to find you," Maria said. "I do not have any money. I do not have a car. All my things are at Carlos's house." Sarah said, "Don't worry about those things. We can help you get everything you need. The most important thing is to keep you safe." When Sarah got home that evening, she told David about her conversation with Maria. She said, "Maria wants to leave Carlos, but she needs a lot of help. She needs a place to live right away. She needs money for food and clothes. She needs help getting a better job." David said, "What can we do to help her?" Sarah said, "Well, the women's shelter is full right now. The waiting list is 3 weeks long. Maria can't wait that long. If she stays with Carlos for 3 more weeks, he might really hurt her." David thought about this problem. Maria needed help right away, but there was no place for her to go. David said, "What if she stayed with us for a few days? Just until there's room at the shelter?" Sarah said, "That's very kind, but it might not be safe. If Carlos finds out where we live, he might try to hurt us too." David said, "Then we need to find another solution." David thought about the problem all night. The next morning he had an idea. He went to work early and called his boss, Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson owned the building where David worked. David said, "Mr. Henderson, I need to talk to you about something important. One of our employees is in danger. She needs help." Mr. Henderson said, "What kind of danger?" David explained Maria's situation. He told Mr. Henderson about Carlos and how he was hurting Maria. He told him that Maria needed a safe place to live. Right away, Mr. Henderson listened carefully. He said, "This is a serious problem. What do you think we should do?" David said, I have an idea, but it's unusual. I know it's not something we normally do, Mr. Henderson said. Tell me your idea. David said, you know that we have some small apartments on the top floor of the building? They were built for security guards, but we don't use them anymore. What if we let Maria stay in one of those apartments? She would be safe there and she could continue working for us. Mr. Henderson was quiet for a long time. He was thinking about David's idea. Finally, he said, that's a very unusual request, David. We've never let an employee live in the building before. David said, I know, it's unusual, but Maria is in real danger. If we don't help her, Carlos might really hurt her. She's a good worker and a good person. She deserves our help. Mr. Henderson said, what would happen if this Carlos person found out where she was living? David said, the building has good security. Carlos would not be able to get in without a key card. Maria would be safe here. Mr. Henderson thought about it some more. He said, I'll need to talk to the other owners of the building. This is a big decision, David said. I understand. But please remember that Maria's life might be in danger. We need to decide quickly. That afternoon, Mr. Henderson called David back. He said, I talked to the other owners. We've decided to help. Maria, she can stay in apartment 308 for as long as she needs to. We won't charge her rent. David was so happy he almost cried. He said, thank you, Mr. Henderson. This will save Maria's life. Mr. Henderson said, there are some conditions. Maria will need to keep working for us. She need to keep the apartment clean and follow all the building rules. And if there are any problems with this Carlos person, we'll need to call the police. David said, I understand. I'll make sure Maria knows about the conditions. But David was not finished with his plan. He knew that Maria would need more than just a safe place to live. She would need help getting a better job so she could support herself. She would need to learn better English. She would need friends who could help her build a new life. David went to talk to some of the other employees in the building. He told them about Maria's situation. He asked if anyone would be willing to help her. The response was amazing. Everyone wanted to help Maria. Jane from the insurance office said she would help Maria learn English. She said she could tutor her twice a week. Mike from the law office said he would help Maria understand her legal rights. He said he would help her get a restraining order against Carlos if she wanted one. Linda from the accounting office said she would help Maria learn computer skills. She said these skills would help Maria get a better job someday. Tom from the marketing office said he would help Maria write a resume and practice for job interviews. David was amazed by how many people wanted to help Maria. He realized that there were many good people in the world who cared about others. David called Maria and asked her to meet him at the building that evening. He said, I have good news for you. When Maria arrived, David took her to the 30th floor. He showed her the small apartment. It had a bedroom, a bathroom, and a small kitchen. It was not fancy, but it was clean and safe. Maria looked around the apartment with wide eyes. She said, this is for me. David said, yes, this is for you. You can live here as long as you need to. You don't have to pay rent. You just have to keep working for us and follow the building rules. Maria started crying. She said, I can't believe this is real. Why are you doing this for me? David said, because everyone deserves to be safe. Everyone deserves to have a good life. You are a good person, Maria. You deserve help. Maria said, what about Carlos? What if he finds out where I am? David said, he won't be able to get into the building without a key card. The security guards will not let him in. You will be safe here. David gave Maria a new key card and a new uniform. He said, tomorrow you'll start working the day shift instead of the night shift. That way, Carlos won't know where you are. Maria said, but what about my things? All my clothes and everything are at Carlos's house, David said. Don't worry about that. Sarah and I will take you shopping for new clothes. The people in the building have collected money to help you buy everything you need. Maria could not believe what was happening. She said, I have never had so many people care about me before. David said, and there's more. Some of the people in the building want to help you learn new skills. Jane will help you learn English. Linda will teach you how to use computers. Mike will help you with legal things. Maria was crying happy tears now. She said, I don't know how to thank you. David said, you don't need to thank us. Just work hard and build a good life for yourself. That's all we want. That night, Maria stayed in her new apartment for the first time. She was scared, but she was also hopeful. For the first time in months, she felt safe. David went home and told Sarah about everything that had happened. Sarah said, I'm so proud of you. You didn't just help Maria find a safe place to live. You created a whole community of people who want to help her. David said, I just did what felt right. I couldn't watch Maria suffer anymore. Sarah said, most people would have just called the police or given Maria a phone number for a shelter. You did something much more than that. You gave her hope. David said, I hope she'd be okay. I hope Carlos won't find her. Sarah said, I think she'd be fine. She has a whole building full of people who care about her now. Carlos can't fight all of us. David smiled. He knew that Maria still had a long way to go. She would need to heal from the trauma of being abused. She would need to learn new skills and build confidence. But now she had a chance to do all of those things. She had a safe place to live and people who cared about her. David had done something that shocked everyone, including himself. He had convinced his boss to give Maria a free apartment. He had organized a group of people to help her learn new skills. He had created a support system that would help Maria build a completely new life. Most people would have just called the police or given Maria a phone number for help. But David had done something much bigger. He had shown Maria that there were good people in the world who would go out of their way to help someone in need. 6 months later, Maria's life was completely different. She no longer looked scared all the time. She smiled more often. She talked to people without looking over her shoulder. She was becoming the person she was meant to be before Carlos made her afraid. Every morning, Maria woke up in her safe apartment on the 30th floor. She made coffee in her small kitchen and looked out the window at the city below. She still could not believe that this was her life now. She had her own place. She had friends. She was learning new things every day. Maria's English had improved a lot. Jane from the insurance office met with her twice a week to practice. They would sit in the break room and talk about different topics. Jane was patient and kind. She never made Maria feel stupid when she made mistakes. Now, Maria could have real conversations with people. She could express her thoughts and feelings in English. Linda from the accounting office had taught Maria how to use computers. Maria learned how to use email and the internet. She learned how to type and use different programs. These skills made Maria feel proud of herself. She had never thought she could learn to use computers. But now she was good at it. Mike from the law office had helped Maria get a restraining order against Carlos. This meant that Carlos could not legally come near Maria or try to contact her. If he did, he would be arrested. Maria felt safer knowing that the law was protecting her. The restraining order had worked. Carlos had tried to call Maria a few times in the first month, but she did not answer. He had come to the building once, but the security guards would not let him in. After that, he stopped trying to contact her. Maria thought maybe he had found another girlfriend to control. Maria was also taking classes to get her GED. This was a test that would show she had finished high school. Maria had dropped out of school when she was 16 to work and help her family. Now she was studying math, science, and social studies. It was hard work, but Maria was determined to pass the test. Tom from the marketing office had helped Maria write a resume. A resume was a paper that told employers about Maria's skills and work experience. Tom had also helped Maria practice for job interviews. He taught her how to answer questions and how to dress for interviews. All of this help was paying off. Maria had gotten a better job. She still worked cleaning the building at night, but now she also worked as a receptionist at a doctor's office during the day. The job paid more money, and Maria was learning new skills. She answered phones, scheduled appointments, and helped patients with their paperwork. Maria was also making friends outside of work. She had joined a support group for women who had been abused by their boyfriends or husbands. The group met once a week at a community center. Maria learned that she was not alone. There were other women who had been through similar experiences. In the support group, Maria met a woman named Rosa. Rosa had left her abusive husband 2 years ago. She had 2 children and had struggled to build a new life. But now Rosa had a good job and her own apartment. She was happy and confident. Rosa became like a big sister to Maria. Rosa encouraged Maria to think about her future. She said, "You have been through something terrible, but you survived. Now you can do anything you want with your life. What do you want to do?" Maria had never thought about what she wanted to do with her life. When she was with Carlos, she could only think about surviving each day, but now she had choices. She could make plans for the future. Maria decided that she wanted to help other women who were being abused. She wanted to work at a shelter or a counseling center. She wanted to show other women that they could escape from abusive relationships and build new lives. To do this kind of work, Maria would need more education. She would need to finish her GED and then go to college. This seemed like a big goal, but Maria was not afraid of hard work. She had already come so far. David was amazed by how much Maria had changed. She was like a different person. She walked with confidence. She laughed and joked with people. She was not the scared, quiet woman he had first met. One day Maria came to David's office. She said, "I want to thank you for everything you did for me. You saved my life." David said, "You saved your own life. You were brave enough to accept help. You worked hard to build a new life." Maria said, "I want to do something to help other women like me. I want to start a program here at the building." David was interested. He said, "What kind of program?" Maria said, "I want to train the employees to recognize signs of abuse. I want them to know how to help people who are being hurt at home. I want to make sure that if another woman like me comes to work here, people will know how to help her." David thought this was a wonderful idea. He said, "I'll talk to Mr. Henderson about it. I think he'll support the program." Mr. Henderson loved Maria's idea. He said, "This building should be a safe place for everyone who works here. If we can help more people like Maria, we should do it." Maria worked with David and Sarah to create the program. They called it Safe Workplace Initiative. They trained all the employees to recognize signs of domestic abuse. They taught people how to approach someone who might be in an abusive relationship. They created a resource list of organizations that could help. The program was so successful that other buildings in the city wanted to start similar programs. Maria began traveling to different companies to train their employees. She was becoming known as an expert on helping abuse victims in the workplace. Maria's story began to spread. A local newspaper wrote an article about her and the Safe Workplace Initiative. The story was about how one man's kindness had helped a woman escape an abusive relationship and build a new life. The newspaper story led to more opportunities for Maria. She was invited to speak at conferences about domestic violence. She spoke to groups of business owners about how they could help their employees who were being abused at home. Maria was nervous the first time she spoke in front of a large group. But she remembered how scared she used to be of everything, and she realized that she was not that person anymore. She was strong now. She had important things to say. Maria told her story to hundreds of people. She talked about how Carlos had controlled and hurt her. She talked about how David had noticed the signs and had cared enough to help. She talked about how a whole community of people had come together to help her build a new life. People were moved by Maria's story. Many businesses decided to start their own programs to help employees who were being abused. Maria's story was creating a movement. A year after Maria had moved into the apartment, she got her GED. She passed all the tests on her first try. David and Sarah and all her friends from the building came to her graduation ceremony. Maria wore a cap and gown and walked across the stage to get her diploma. Maria cried happy tears as she held her diploma. She thought about how different her life was now. A year ago, she had been scared and trapped. Now she was educated and free. She had goals and dreams for the future. After graduation, Maria applied to community college. She wanted to study social work so she could help other abuse victims. She was accepted and started taking classes in the fall. Maria was also ready to move out of the building and into her own apartment. She had saved enough money to pay rent and buy furniture. She had learned to drive and had bought a used car. She was completely independent now, before she moved out. The building employees threw a party for Maria. They celebrated everything she had accomplished. They gave her gifts for her new apartment. They told her how proud they were of her. Maria gave a speech at the party. She said, "When I first came to this building, I was broken. I thought I would never be happy again. But all of you showed me that there are good people in the world. You showed me that people care about each other. You gave me hope." Maria continued, "I want all of you to know that you didn't just help me. You helped every woman that I will help in the future. Because of what you did for me, I will be able to help other women escape from abusive relationships. Your kindness is going to help many people." David was proud of Maria, but he was also proud of all the people who had helped her. He had shown them that they had the power to change someone's life. He had shown them that caring about others could make a real difference. Maria graduated from community college 2 years later. She got a job at a domestic violence shelter. She worked with women who were trying to escape abusive relationships. She helped them make safety plans. She helped them find places to live and jobs to support themselves. Maria was good at her job because she understood what the women were going through. She had been where they were. She could give them hope because she was living proof that life could get better. Maria also continued to work part-time training businesses about domestic violence. She traveled around the country speaking at conferences. She wrote articles for magazines about how workplaces could help abuse victims. 3 years after Maria had first moved into the building, a reporter from a national television show came to interview her. The show was about ordinary people who had done extraordinary things to help others. The reporter interviewed Maria about her transformation from abuse victim to advocate. She also interviewed David about why he had decided to help Maria in such an unusual way.